Meghan Markle as previously having been a, quote, yacht girl, there have been more revelations going viral from the past. And I want to show you this.
She was a yacht girl. That's right. It's mentioned in the book. Meghan used to entertain as a yacht girl.
Meghan, this is historic. There has not been a crisis like this in 90 years. Whoa, okay. The House and Habit bombshell investigation into Meghan Markle is close to dropping.
In 2026, people who were actually inside those rooms finally started speaking out, and what they're saying is flipping the entire Sussex story upside down. These aren't random online rumours or tabloid guesses. These are people with real connections who stayed quiet for years because keeping secrets worked better for them.
This is Karina Shuliak, Epstein's girlfriend.
And the only times she traveled and went anywhere was with him. And guess who's on the other end with her Panama hat?
But now, that silence is cracking fast. Once you hear the details, the polished fairy tale version gets a lot harder to buy. Before the palace and before Suits made Meghan famous, she was already moving through elite circles most people never even see. Saint-Tropez, Ibiza, the Amalfi Coast, not as a tourist, but as a familiar face around wealthy and influential crowds. Photos from that time show someone who looked fully comfortable in those spaces, confident and connected, not somebody who randomly wandered in. In 2026, those old yacht pictures are getting fresh attention, with people closely examining who she met and how those relationships may have mattered later on. One phrase keeps surfacing: yacht girl. In wealthy social circles, that label points to a specific kind of setup where attractive, ambitious women are invited onto luxury yachts to help create a glamorous atmosphere around billionaire guests. The understanding usually stays private, and nobody openly talks about it afterward. Meghan's supporters say she was simply enjoying success and traveling in rich social circles like many public figures do.
And I wonder if Prince Andrew's going to come out and say, hey, Harry, I did your wife quite a few times on yachts before you got.
But critics argue that access to those spaces often comes with expectations and connections that regular people never see. What makes 2026 different is how detailed these claims have become. People aren't just saying she attended events. They're talking about who she met there, what networks were forming, and how some of those same circles reportedly overlapped with parts of Britain's elite world years before Harry ever entered the picture. And this is where things get wild. The Mediterranean social scene she moved through allegedly crossed paths with networks the royal family later tried hard to avoid publicly. Same parties, same guest lists, same powerful people.
She'd been a deal or no deal girl. She was calling herself a model, and she was starring in a show Suits. She used to charge almost $30,000 per trip, which is why she was making good money. It wasn't on Suits. It was on her yachting trips.
According to insiders, some figures in Britain already knew Meghan Markle's name long before Harry ever sent that first Instagram message. Then Jean Lefebvre, the man behind GS Elevator, the account famous for exposing Goldman Sachs culture, added even more heat to the story in 2026, and he did not sound uncertain about it. The official story is the one everybody knows. Harry and Meghan connect on Instagram, sparks fly, and suddenly it's a modern fairy tale. Most people accepted that version without thinking twice. But Jean Lefebvre threw out a completely different story in 2026, and it caught serious attention. According to him, Harry wasn't even the first royal-linked connection Meghan made through elite social circles. He claimed her networking stretched deep into the Middle East, including trips to France and Dubai that were allegedly connected to wealthy Saudi circles. These weren't random vacations, according to the claims.
Meghan Markle was known as a hardcore yacht partying person, ready for anything.
These were environments built around influence, money, and carefully selected guests. Lefebvre's comments about Harry were especially sharp. He described him as the guy who tried to turn a global socialite into a housewife. That line wasn't just about their marriage. It challenged the entire public image surrounding their relationship. Because if that version is even partly true, it changes the timeline completely. Meghan wouldn't have entered Harry's world as an outsider discovering royalty for the first time. She would have already understood how elite networks worked long before Kensington Palace ever became part of her life. The claims suggest she already knew the rules, the connections, and the power structures tied to those circles.
And here we have Andrew, with whom looks like Marcus Anderson. This is in 2001 when Meghan Markle would have allegedly been on third year. Meghan Markle hardly spent any time at Northwestern University.
And for Harry, that idea hits hard. He gave up his role as a working royal, publicly fought with the institution he was born into, and openly criticized members of his own family on camera. Now critics are asking a brutal question. What if Harry believed he was changing Meghan's life, while he was actually stepping into a path she had already been building for years? That's the angle making people rethink the entire story in 2026. And just when the situation already seems messy enough, another royal name enters the picture: Sarah Ferguson. People love underestimating Fergie, but that usually backfires fast. She's survived scandal after scandal while staying connected to royal circles through it all.
Many things in Meghan's past, I think, are patchy at best. And she is going to be worried about this because, again, the mainstream media have not reported on the fact Meghan Markle was friends with Jeffrey Epstein's girlfriend.
Over the years, she dealt with public embarrassment, financial struggles, media mockery, and being pushed aside by the institution she once represented. The infamous toe-sucking photos, the cash for access controversy, and years of awkward distance from major royal events all turned her into an easy target in the press. Fergie went through scandal after scandal and still managed to survive every single time. That's because people keep forgetting one important thing about Sarah Ferguson. She spent decades inside royal social circles. She was around during private conversations the public was never supposed to hear. She watched powerful people up close and understood exactly how those worlds operated. For years, she stayed quiet because silence protected her position. But in 2026, something shifted. She suddenly made a comment linking Meghan directly to Prince Andrew's social world. And it wasn't subtle at all.
Jessica Reed-Krause writes, I have all the scrubbed info. Soho, Epstein connections. Now that is clearly a reference to Soho House. Photos and mistreated staff as meaning anonymous sources detailing what it's like to work for her.
Calling Meghan Prince Andrew's first client wasn't some random slip-up. Those words were deliberate, and the timing raised eyebrows everywhere. At that moment, Harry and Meghan were gaining momentum publicly, with growing media attention and major tours ahead. Then Fergie connected Meghan to the most controversial royal figure imaginable. The impact was immediate. Critics who already questioned the Sussexes started looking at the story differently overnight. And according to royal watchers, this wasn't just personal drama between two women who never fully got along. They believe it was strategic. Every time Prince Andrew's past returns to headlines, another royal controversy somehow seems to steal attention away. But this time, people think Fergie flipped the script completely. Instead of avoiding scrutiny,
Sarah Ferguson attended Tom Inskip's wedding in Jamaica in 2017. Meghan Markle was flown in private plane, allegedly belonging to Rob Burkle. Harry flew economy plus from the United Kingdom to Jamaica. And Fergie, Eugenie, and allegedly Andrew were at that wedding.
she redirected it somewhere else to protect her own family's position. What makes this situation so explosive is that Fergie actually moved through many of those same elite circles during the same years. She knows the people, the parties, and the connections behind closed doors. That's why her comments caused such a storm in 2026. Then comes the subject nobody wants to say too directly: the Epstein shadow hanging over these conversations. Fergie's remarks suddenly placed Meghan and Andrew in the same elite social environment. Similar private events, wealthy networks, and circles built around influence and discretion. That immediately triggered more questions online. Were some of those guest lists overlapping? Did these elite worlds cross paths more often than people realized? And were powerful social networks operating closer together than the public was ever told? By 2026, investigators and media figures were reportedly revisiting old flight logs, archived event records, and dated photographs looking for connections. Not rumors.
You know, this is what Meghan has been doing. She's a piece of Klingon, like she clings to somebody who can get her there. So Meghan manages to befriend one person of a very popular group, and then that person introduces her to the others. And because she's being brought in by somebody they trust, she's welcomed in.
But documented overlaps that could explain why these stories suddenly resurfaced with so much intensity. These questions aren't just floating around online anymore. In 2026, they're being discussed in serious media and insider circles, and that's where the palace's original reaction to Meghan starts looking very different. For years, the public explanation was simple. The royal institution rejected Meghan because she was an American actress and an outsider. Harry and Meghan built much of their public image around that claim. Interviews, documentaries, books. The same message kept coming back. The institution treated us badly because of who we are. But the version gaining attention in 2026 tells a completely different story. According to this angle, the concern inside palace walls wasn't really about Meghan's background. It was about the people she allegedly knew and the elite social circles connected to her past. The claim is that certain figures inside the royal world feared what she might already know about networks and relationships the institution had spent years trying to keep far away from public attention. In this version, Meghan wasn't viewed as risky because she was different. She was viewed as risky because of her access and connections. And if that's true, even partly, it changes the entire conversation. The tension inside the palace wouldn't have been driven only by cruelty or snobbery. Critics argue it may also have involved fear and damage control behind the scenes. That distinction matters because fear creates a completely different kind of reaction. It turns private discomfort into something far more calculated. Then there's Harry. In 2026, insiders describe him as deeply frustrated, while the story around him keeps shifting publicly. For years, he defended one version of events with complete confidence. He distanced himself from family members, royal duties, and long-time relationships because he believed fully in that narrative. Now, according to reports, he feels blindsided as more people connected to those earlier social circles start speaking publicly. Sources close to him claim he keeps asking the same questions. Who is behind this? Why are these stories surfacing now? And who benefits from all of it coming out while we're trying to rebuild something new? The anger around Harry is obvious, but underneath it is a much bigger question he reportedly doesn't want to face. Was Meghan fully honest about her past and the elite circles she moved through before they met? Because if those connections to wealthy international networks and Mediterranean social scenes were truly part of her history, then Harry may not have been rescuing someone unfamiliar with power and influence. According to critics, he may have met someone who already understood those worlds far better than he did.
And then here's the mic drop, Lauren. A picture of Virginia Giuffre, the late Virginia Giuffre, as a much younger woman, with the words, "And maybe it will make sense now," why VG, clearly a reference to Virginia Giuffre, originally wanted Meghan to testify at her trial.
That possibility changes the emotional meaning behind every major decision he made. The interviews, the family fallout, the public battles, the relationships he damaged, all of it may have been built around a version of events that wasn't fully complete. And now, in 2026, Harry appears stuck in an impossible position. Every public response keeps the controversy alive even longer. But staying silent creates even more speculation online. Either way, the pressure keeps growing. Some royal watchers believe the people pushing these stories understood Harry's personality perfectly before any of this surfaced. They knew he reacts emotionally when he feels cornered. And critics claim that weakness is now being used against him very carefully. According to insiders, none of this looks random. In elite British circles, information rarely leaks by accident. It gets placed intentionally. And there's a major difference between those two things. The return of old GS elevator claims, the timing of Fergie's comments, and the renewed focus on certain royal tours all appeared too coordinated for many observers to dismiss as coincidence. Reports suggest these ideas circulated privately, first among wealthy and influential social groups before spreading publicly. People allegedly tested reactions quietly behind closed doors, at private dinners, through media contacts, and among powerful figures connected to politics, money, and old royal networks. Then, once public interest seemed strong enough, the stories exploded into wider conversations. The people behind these operations rarely appear in headlines themselves. Critics describe them as editors, advisors, social fixers, and long-time royal insiders who know exactly how public narratives are shaped. They don't always rely on public statements or legal threats. They use timing, influence, and carefully placed information. And right now, according to many watching this unfold, nearly all of that pressure is aimed directly at the Sussexes. Every contact, every media connection, every carefully timed story. That's what makes this campaign so effective in 2026. The people behind it don't even need every claim to be fully proven.
Something that Virginia Giuffre's lawyer, David Boys, had previously gone public to the Daily Beast about. So, wow, I have been in contact with Jessica Reed-Krause for some time. I have been waiting for her to drop this investigation so desperately.
They just need the stories to sound believable enough, detailed enough, and timed perfectly enough to shift public opinion around Harry and Meghan wherever they go. Australia was supposed to be a clean reset for the Sussexes on Commonwealth soil. Instead, controversy was already waiting for them before they even landed. Critics say that kind of global media pressure doesn't happen by accident. It looks coordinated, organised, and carefully managed. The royal tour had reportedly been planned for months. Every appearance, every camera angle, every public moment was designed to rebuild their image. The goal was simple: show Harry and Meghan as globally respected figures with a meaningful future outside the monarchy. But instead of positive headlines, the yacht allegations followed them straight into Australia. In cities like Sydney and Melbourne, the reaction reportedly felt far colder than expected. Protests that once focused mostly on anti-monarchy opinions suddenly became personal. Signs and online discussions started referencing old yacht claims and renewed questions about Meghan's past connections. Security teams were reportedly forced to handle situations nobody expected when the tour was first organised.
The yacht girl. Oh my God. Ghislaine Maxwell spoke. She said so. Virginia Roberts spoke. They both talked about Meghan Markle, but the world chose to ignore it. And even now, with these pictures out in the public domain, the press still refuses to expose Meghan.
Australian crowds are known for being direct, and many observers said the public mood felt skeptical rather than supportive. The growing criticism centered on one damaging idea: that the image being presented publicly no longer matched what people believed was happening behind the scenes. And for Harry and Meghan, that accusation cuts deep. Their public brand has always focused on honesty, openness, and telling their truth. Critics argue that once audiences start seeing public figures as performative or inconsistent, rebuilding trust becomes extremely difficult. But the strangest twist in 2026 may be what some online commentators are calling the genetic freak project. Reports coming from elite tech and media circles claim certain groups are experimenting with highly realistic digital recreations tied to those alleged Mediterranean party scenes. That part of the story has left many people seriously unsettled. These aren't just cheap, fake photos people can spot instantly anymore. Reports in 2026 are talking about cinematic-level AI images so realistic that even trained experts sometimes struggle to tell what's real and what isn't. According to people discussing these projects, the creators understand exactly how viral content spreads online. They know one harsh reality of the internet: the original shocking image reaches millions, while the correction barely reaches anyone afterward. That's what makes this situation so dangerous for public figures. By the time fact checks appear, the first impression has already spread everywhere. And for Meghan, whose public image has always been carefully managed and visually polished, the idea of realistic fake material connecting her to elite yacht scenes could become a serious problem.
Because there have been so many questions about her past for some time, so many suggestions. Was she operating as a yacht girl? How was she making her money? How was she traveling around the world? Maybe we're going to get some of those answers from House and Habit.
The harsh truth is that once people see something repeatedly, many start accepting it emotionally, whether it's true or not. In today's online world, perception moves faster than facts, and in 2026, that line is becoming blurrier than ever. Meanwhile, Buckingham Palace has stayed almost completely silent through all of this. No major defences, no emotional public statements, no aggressive responses. And according to royal insiders, that silence looks intentional. The institution doesn't appear to need direct involvement because the controversy is already growing on its own. Stories keep circulating, social media keeps reacting, and the Australia tour continues absorbing public criticism that becomes harder to shake off over time. Some analysts believe the palace is positioning itself carefully for the future. If a formal separation between the monarchy and the Sussexes becomes even clearer later on, the royal family could present itself as calm, restrained, and uninvolved the entire time. That strategy matters because it changes the public image completely. Instead of looking vengeful or aggressive, the institution could appear patient and reluctant, as if distance became unavoidable rather than intentional. Critics argue this kind of reputation management doesn't happen overnight. It's built slowly through silence, timing, and letting public opinion move naturally without direct interference. And historically, royal institutions have always been extremely skilled at playing the long game.
20 years ago, that woman would not be able to marry a working member of the British royal family. Even though she's an actress, even though she's playing a role, that is just beneath the British royal family.
At the same time, many observers say Meghan's public strategy is already shifting. The humanitarian messaging is getting stronger, the lifestyle branding is evolving, and personal storytelling appears far less central than before. According to commentators, that's a classic move when public controversy around someone's personal image starts becoming too intense. The strategy now is clear. Go global, focus on charity work, humanitarian causes, and projects that position you above gossip and controversy. It's a smart move because causes and activism are much harder for critics to attack directly. And honestly, Meghan has always been strong at reshaping public image when pressure starts building. But according to royal commentators, the people driving the 2026 backlash aren't slowing down just because the messaging changed. They built this campaign to keep following the Sussexes no matter where the spotlight moves. Meanwhile, many insiders say Harry seems increasingly distant and unsettled. The freedom he once hoped to find in California reportedly doesn't feel so freeing anymore. Instead, it's become a life filled with constant speculation, rumors, and stories that keep chasing him across the world. The palace still exists in the background, his family is still there, and the whispers surrounding his marriage continue reaching him no matter how far away he lives from London.
Many people in this world are lost. It's excruciating to live with past mistakes. It is so difficult. I always would like to change so many things in my past, but I can't. I've got to move forward, and it's very difficult to go back over them.
What seems to weigh on him most is the growing uncertainty around whether he ever knew the full story from the beginning. Critics argue that kind of doubt changes everything. Every sacrifice, every public interview, every broken relationship suddenly gets viewed through a completely different lens. Harry wanted to escape the institution completely. But some royal watchers believe the monarchy never truly lets people go.
Her man serves no purpose. Does that sound familiar? Fergie saying, oh, you know what? I'm done. Why? Because now she no longer has the use of the title.
The connection just becomes less visible until the moment it matters again. And in 2026, many think that moment has arrived. At the center of all this is one massive question people can't stop asking. Was this relationship always really about love, or was there something bigger underneath it all? Power, access, influence, elite social positioning.
Sarah Ferguson is as cunning and as deviant and as skanky as Meghan Markle. She just was lucky that when she was doing all her skankiness, the internet was not around.
Those theories are now driving non-stop debate online. And if the growing claims are even partly accurate, then Harry may have sacrificed everything for a version of events that is now being publicly challenged by people who say they were around long before he ever entered the picture. That's the kind of realization that can completely change how someone sees their entire life story.
This is what we needed, Dan. You know, the news agenda has aged me rapidly. Like, this is what we need to see. We need to see some investigations into Meghan.
Some royal scandals eventually end with clear answers. This one just keeps creating more questions. And in royal circles, silence usually means the biggest details haven't surfaced yet. Drop your thoughts in the comments because these conversations have been getting wild lately. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video so you don't miss what comes next.